Okay, we're going to be increasing things by a percentage and decreasing them by a percentage. And we're going to use some very common percentages. One of the most common percentages is 10%. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is write down 20 again by itself here. And we're going to call 20 100%. That means 20 is the original number. So whenever you see 100% next to something, that tells you that was the original number being used. Okay, now, how to find 10%? Well, to find 10%, you take the original number and you divide it by 10, or you can remove a decimal. So 20 will become the number 2. So 2 represents 10%. Now, to make an increase, we're going to add them together. 20 plus the 2 equals 22. 22 is the entire is the increase on 20, or should I say that represents 110%. Okay, so that's it. Now let's do a 5% increase. Well, in order to do a 5% increase, you start off saying that 20 is 100%, or should I say 20 represents the original. To find the 5% of 20, you go back to 10%. Okay, 10% is 2. That means 5% will be half of 2. Half of 2 would be 1. So that is my 5%. And I found it by going back to my 10% and getting half of that. So let's increase it by adding it together, and you get 21. 21 represents 105%. Again, this is a 5% increase. Now, let's go a little higher. Let's do a 20% increase. Okay. So once again, write down 20 and label it as 100%, which is the original number. Okay, to find 20%, we do this. We go back to the 10%. We said that 10% was 2, right? Well, 20% is going to be twice the 2. And twice 2, or 2 plus 2, you're going to get 4. So that's 20%. Let's increase it by adding it together. And 20 plus 4 gives you 24. Okay, 24 represents the new amount, which is 120%. So I just increased 20 by 20% and got 24. Okay, the last one is a 25% increase. Okay, easy. I'll show you. First, you start off with 20, and you recognize or label that as 100%. That's the original number that we're dealing with. Now, to find 25%, what we're going to do is that we're going to look at our 20% number and our 5% number. And we're going to put these two numbers together. Putting a 20% and a 5% together actually makes a 25%. So 20 and 5 gives you 25. So we'll put the 4 and 1 together. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 represents 25%. Now let's increase it by adding 20 plus 5. You get 25. And this represents 125%, which is a 25% increase. Okay, now we're going to work with decreases. Okay, so decreases work almost the exact same as the increases. First, you got to know what the original amount is. So we say 60 is the original amount, so we call that 100%. To find 10%, we're going to divide this by 10, or should I say move the decimal over one time, and we get the number 6. So 6 represents the 10%. Now, I'm going to decrease this, so I'm going to subtract these two. Okay. So, we're going to make this a 5 and it's a 10. So, which is borrowing. 6 from 10 leaves 4, and then the 5 comes down, and we get 54. 54 represents 90%, or should I say 10% decrease. So the subtraction gives us our decrease. Now let's go to 5%. Once again, 60 represents the original, so we call that 100%. To find a 5% of 60, we go back to 10%. And remember, 10% we use the number 6. So for 5%, we're going to use half of 6. So we're going to use 3. So we're going to decrease 60 by 3, which is a subtraction. So 60 minus 3 is 3 from 10 leaves 7, and the 5 comes down. That'll be 57. So 57 represents 95% of the original. So it decreased, it went down with it. Now, a 20% decrease. Well, a 20% decrease we find by identifying 60 as 100%. That's the original. Now, to find the 20% amount, we go back to the 10%. Okay, the 10% was 6. And to find 20%, we double the 6 here. So 6 plus 6 is 12, or 6 times 2 is 12. And that's 20%. And now we're going to decrease it by subtracting it. Okay, so I'm going to borrow here. This becomes a 5, this becomes a 10. 2 from 10 leaves 8, and 1 from 5 leaves 4. So 48 is the new amount. That represents 80% of the original. Okay, the original was 60. 80% is only 48. Lastly, we're going to do a 25% decrease. 60 is the original, so we're going to call that 100%. Now, to get a 25% amount, we're going to look at the 20% and the 5%. These two right here. We're going to know the 5% number, and it gave us 15. So let's decrease it by 15. We're going to make this a 5 and this a 10. 5 from 10 leaves 5, and 1 from 5 leaves 4. This right here represents 75% of the original amount.